welcome to this very special event organized by the Dominica Council on Aging in collaboration with Dominica News Online. My name is Tim Durand, and it's an extreme pleasure and an honor, I should say. This month, September, is being celebrated as the month of the elderly and the month. Before we get to the program, let's put it this way, before we get to the other by the President of the Dominica Council on Aging, Mrs. Ophelia Marie.
People here, but before I continue my hello and my welcome, can we just do the Lord's Prayer from the depths of our hearts? On earth as it is in heaven, give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, evil. For thine is the kingdom, the power, and the glory, forever and ever. Amen. Thank you so much. Social media land, thank you for joining us this afternoon. Well, you heard that I am the president of the Dominica. This time, our theme is the elderly surviving the pandemic. And it's obvious, or the nicer way of saying it, the coronavirus. And everybody is, first of all, the Prince, who is the first vice president of the Dominica Council on Aging. The full staff is there. And we are very privileged to welcome Dominica News Online in the person of Mr. Tim Durand. And most importantly, we are happy that the vibrant senior citizens are represented, and the Health Promotion Unit of the Ministry of Health is represented, is present. And we are here because of a gentleman who has been designated just recently the president of the National Health Commission. I'm talking about Dr. Dorian Shillingford. And he is accompanied by Ms. Jennifer Astafan. I had to look at her so that I didn't call her Jennifer. So we are among friends. And we have with us also the Solutions Group. Tell me your name again. Multi-Solution team. And we are at the Alliance Française. Expectant of good things happening today. As Mr. Durand told you, this is part of the observance of the Dominica Council on Aging's Month of the Elderly. People prefer to say celebration because we celebrate life to the fullest anytime that we're together. So, we are together. Welcome all of you here. And welcome all those who are in social media land. We know that you'll be able to come onto the Facebook of the Dominica Council on Aging, the Facebook of Dominica News Online, and all the other media available to you for viewing this as it happens, and also for viewing it after it happens. So again, welcome everybody. Let's make this the best that it can be.
Well, thank you very much, Ophelia. You know, I never feel comfortable following Ophelia in any activity whatsoever. You know, she's come and set this, the tone, so to speak, for what is to happen today and how we should present ourselves and present whatever it is that we are doing, we are supposed to be talking about, and whatever role that we are playing. And so I have I have no option but to try to follow in Ophelia's footsteps and try to lively up this thing a little. I referred to the month of the elderly as a celebration because I think the elderly are always to be celebrated, you know. If we think of the elderly and the importance to our society and to the communities from which they come, to the families in those communities, then we cannot but conclude and come to the understanding that our elderly must always be celebrated, because they are the ones who, because, I mean, I am an elderly person now, so I was about to say, those of us who are still young, consider ourselves to be still young, we have to understand too that the contributions that we make today are really going to manifest themselves in a meaningful and impactful way when we get older, when we're able to look back and examine the legacies that we would have left. That is when we will begin to see the impact of those contributions in a very real sense. So my appeal to all of us is to recognize the importance of the elderly and let them know at all times, every day, every minute, every day, that they are important. And having said that, since I am not a featured person here tonight, I am simply here to moderate this evening really, moderate the discussion or moderate the activity. Let me move on to the people who have come here to make presentations and who are the ones that we have come to listen to. And for those of you who are out there listening to us via the internet, both on Dominica News Online webpage and the Facebook page, as well as on the Facebook page of the Dominica Council on Aging, we want to welcome you, and we hope you will enjoy what is presented today, and we hope you will stay with us throughout the activity. So having said that, I would like to introduce our first speaker this afternoon, and she is Mrs. Adora Toussaint. I think her name is a little longer than that, you know. It's Adora something Toussaint, right? Adora LeBlanc Toussaint, right? Nowadays, you can't make the mistake of omitting, you know, the maiden names of ladies who would choose to have it that way. So Mrs. Adora LeBlanc Toussaint is a health educator. She was employed with she has been employed with the government of Dominica, first as a nurse for many years, and now she's a senior health promotion officer in the health promotions unit of the Ministry of Health. If you want to know anything, well, she loves caring for the elderly, I was told. And if you want to know something a little bit more personal about her, she's married, she has 2 children and 2 grandchildren. And having said that, I'd like to invite Mrs. Adora LeBlanc Toussaint to make a presentation.
Thank you so much, and let me say good afternoon to our media group present, also the staff of the Dominica Council on Aging, those listening to us on social media line, and also Mr. Tim Durand, who is our coordinator, moderator for the afternoon, the president of the Dominica Council of Aging, Ms. Ophelia Marie, and I have 2 distinguished guests this afternoon, persons that I have admired throughout my nursing career, and this is Mrs. Jennifer Astafans. She was once my PS, and I'm proud to be in her presence this afternoon, and also Dr. Dorian Shillingford, who at the time, while I was a nurse, was one of my chief medical officers. So to everybody, I want to say good afternoon. This afternoon, the task is given to me to do a presentation just on aging and age within the pandemic. But before, let me first define age. Age is the length of time one exists. Aging is a process of growing old, and pandemic is a disease prevalence in the world or in a country. As one gets older, the risk for severe illnesses from COVID-19 increases. For example, people in their 50s are at a greater risk for severe illnesses than people in their 40s. Similarly, people in their 60s or 70s are generally at a greater risk for severe illnesses than people in their 50s. The greater risk for severe illnesses from COVID-19 is among the aged, especially those around 85, and this is according to CDC, Central Disease of Control. In general, one risk of getting severely ill from COVID increases as one gets older. In fact, 8 out of 10 COVID-19 related related deaths reported in the United States have been aged 65 years and older, and I'm also quoting from Center of Disease Control. The COVID-19 pandemic has changed many aspects of the world, including how older persons are treated. I believe that research evidence from the behavioral sciences of aging do help address the pandemic in ways that can benefit the health and well-being of individuals across the lifespan. I also think that there are primary ways that evidence from primary behavioral sciences do make a difference. First, with the pandemic, there has been a parallel outbreak of ageism. And you may want to ask, what is ageism? Ageism is a stereotyping, prejudice, and discrimination against people on the basis of their age. What the world is seeing now being displayed is an increased portrayal of those over the age of 70 as being all alike with regard to being helpless, frail, and unable to contribute to society. My question this afternoon is, are we aware that the older persons differ in life experiences, cultural backgrounds, genetics, and health histories? Therefore, one needs to look at the older persons individually and not as a group, leading to stereotype. In addition, countless older persons resist the image of being frail and helpless. Look at Mr. Joseph. Look at Miss Ophelia. Look at Dr. Dorian Shillingford. Look at Miss John Baptist. And look at Mrs. Hastafans. Are they not all different? Are they not old? Are they not growing gracefully? Do they look frail? Do they look helpless? Are they not contributing to society? And we can respond in the affirmative. They are growing old, but they are contributing to society. But we also need to understand, while growing old, there are positive things that older persons can attribute to life. And granted, old age is often associated with negativities. This afternoon, I'm here to say no. In response to the pandemic, the seniors had paid special attention when it comes to their health. And I speak not just as a health educator, but also as a nurse. More often than ever now, they walk through parks. Do you see them walking through the parks? They pause to admire flowers. They listen to birds. They sing along. They eat fresh fruits. They eat their vegetables. And they are doing all of this to boost their immune system. Backyard gardening and flower garden have returned back to life once more because the older persons now have the opportunity to be engaged in what they love to do and not be told otherwise. They reach out to their families, to their friends, to their colleagues, and they make use of the social media. They have the telephone, they have WhatsApp, and they remain connected. Can you say that they are old? And can you say because they are growing gracefully, they have no place in life? My question is, they contribute positive to life, and they are growing gracefully within the pandemic. The older persons are old enough to know that their lives, like all of nature itself, goes in cycles. Research has shown general happiness usually rises with age. People 5 years or more are likely to being very happy than any other category because they have served, they have contributed, they are now sitting and looking and giving advice to those coming around. Older people report feeling higher satisfaction, happiness, and well-being, and most of them have less anxiety, depression, and stress. These are the positive things that within the pandemic, in spite of being old or aging or getting older, you have contributed positively during this pandemic. But there are also negativities as you grow old within that pandemic. According to research, there is economic setbacks. Research has shown that older people have a harder time re-entering the workplace. In fact, after the recession in 2008, adults aged 60 years and older were the least likely group to become employed once they lose their job, and this is according to Burton 2014. Similarly, with COVID-19, this trend is likely to reoccur because the ageism movement of discrimination against the older persons, calling them frail, helpless, and the other stereotypes that comes with it are the negativities and the negative impact that our persons who are growing old in age now experience. Older workers have been and will continue to be at risk for age discrimination in the workplace. Older workers will experience bias in training and advancement opportunities, and this is all research according to Olson 2017. They will be told that soon live and work. It's time to give the younger persons the opportunity to advance. They will be, in a subtle way, be pushed away from opportunity to participate and share in the way forward for their organization at their place of work. It is sad that the older ones who helped to pave the way in the development of not just our country, but other countries, and in Dominica, and in the workplace, and at school, and at churches, and within the society, will be treated as second class, all because of the aging process and the COVID-19 pandemic. I am here to say to you, the older persons, I am getting there. We will not sit relaxed and allow the negativity of society, referring to us as frail, helpless, and stereotyping us. We will fight back. We'll fight back strong as old person, regardless of the pandemic that is now upon us. Health is also affected. The fact that the older persons are vulnerable and may have other health issues to include diabetes, hypertension, cancers, and the list goes on, places them at a greater risk. With the focus and concentration on COVID-19 to stop, prevent, and minimize the effect of the second wave, older persons will experience disruption in usual services and health services. While their support services such as daycare centers, senior group activities, Meals on Wheels are jeopardized, the healthcare system has narrowed its focus on managing COVID-19 cases, meaning other healthcare appointments and procedures are being delayed. Regular checkups, non-urgent provider visits, elective procedures are being canceled, putting older persons at higher risk of worsening health deterioration. And this was research, and this is according to Graham 2020. The lack of attention to personal care, medication management, and treatment will lead to deterioration of health, and this is according to NADOL in 2020. But I am here to say, regardless of the negativity that is being placed upon those of you who are getting old, who seems to be less strong like the others, don't let this pandemic turn you wrong. I want to conclude by saying, those of us who find ourselves in the category needs to make a conscious effort to fight back and let society realize that we may be growing old, but gracefully, and still has the potential to contribute in whatever way possible. We will live to fight this global pandemic as all others, and not just an ordinary fight, but we will fight and will turn out as heroes, knowing that our strength is made perfect in God. The God whom we serve has stated clearly in scriptures, far and abundantly more than people can think of or imagine. Our old persons will stand and fight and will contribute to society, regardless of aging and regardless of the COVID-19 pandemic. I thank you.
Let me just pause, Mr. Durant, to say that we are told that on YouTube we're coming out loud and clear, and also on Facebook. So we want to thank those of you who are already listening and following. Our technician has asked that we speak closer in the mic if possible. Let's put our hands together for him and ourselves. Thank you, Tim.
Thank you very much, Ophelia. And thank you very much, Mrs. Adora LeBlanc Toussaint. Yes. And the message is fight back, you know? We can fight back as older people because we know we have contributed, all of us who are older, and we know we can continue to contribute. So the point here is we can still continue to make a contribution to society, and we need to fight back when we are prevented from making that contribution. Thank you, Mrs. Toussaint. And now we move on quickly to our next and featured presenter in today's activity, and that is Dr. Dorian Shillingford. Let me tell you a little about him. I was able to memorize the information I had about Mrs. Tusi, but I'm sorry I can't do that with Dr. Shillingford. I have to read it to make sure I get it right, okay? So, Dr. Dorian Shillingford, and let me just get this a little bigger so I can actually read it. Okay, you know, as we get older, our eyesight diminishes, you know? So, Dr. Dorian Shillingford was an Ireland scholar in 1946. He continued his studies at the University of Aberdeen, and I'll give you a joke about this a little later on. At the University of Aberdeen in Scotland. And he graduated from the University of Toronto, Canada, in public health in 1962. He later served as the chief medical officer in Dominica and is therefore familiar with the care for the elderly in the country. He now serves as the chairman of the National Health Commission under the Ministry of Health, Wellness, and New Health Investment. And so I present to you Dr. Dorian Shillingford to make his presentation.
Good afternoon, good evening. I'm very, very happy to be here, but unfortunately, I have not really prepared myself in a positive way, as I was really hoping to enter into a discussion. Communication to me is extremely important these days. We all have to know what is going on and how we can deal with it. Our island has been richly blessed with a high percentage of centenarians in the Caribbean. The elderly population of our island continues to make tremendous contributions to our society. This contribution has been in various aspects such as agriculture, education, delivery of health services, and within the family, as well as for many cultural norms and traditions. Now, having said this, we notice that there are quite a number of centenarians here. Why is this? What can we learn from the fact that there are lots of people who have survived over the years the various epidemics that we have had, the infectious diseases, the measles, the whooping cough, the typhoid fever, all of this. They have survived. And having survived these, continued a healthy life, perhaps with one or two complications. But really, why? I've thought of this and I really understand. It's all a question of their lifestyle. Your health depends on what you do. Not about seeing a doctor and being treated for something to keep you well. No, it's all about what you do. We are responsible for our well-being. And it is time that we understand this. I think we will. And as it is in Dominica, the elderly are still doing pretty well. They are. Why is it that this is happening here? We know that the pandemic has attacked many people in nursing homes and other places where you have the elderly. But just think of it. They're together, and we know that diseases spread when you are within communicating distances, we're close to one another. But is that really necessary? Yes, in some instances, it is necessary to have nursing homes and homes for the aged. But I'm going to suggest something else that we should really consider. Early this morning, I was saying about what has happened to the elderly in Dominica. How are we taking care of them? And I remember the old Dominica Infirmary at the mouth of the Roseau River. I can tell you all that happened there. But then I said, what's the name of the place that we now have here in the middle of Roseau? Well, I couldn't remember the name. Oh, you mean the Dominica Infirmary? I said, why are they calling it an infirmary? These people are not infirm. They shouldn't be considered as infirmary. Call it a hospital for the elderly or something like that. But then I realized it's the English language. An infirmary means not for the elderly, it simply means a big hospital. I went to study at the Aberdeen Royal Infirmary, but other places were called the hospital for sick children and things. But if it's big, doesn't matter where they have surgery or thing, it was called an infirmary. Now, this COVID pandemic has come along, and we should have really dealt with it in a better way. We should. And so we weren't really thinking that pandemics were going to happen. I guess as doctors, we were more interested in treating patients rather than saying, no, let us look about preventing disease. Or better yet, let us promote health. This is what we should be doing. And I'm happy to know that at the moment, there is a National Commission, Health Commission, pretty good people. I happen to be there, but they're doing the work. You can listen to them on the radio and so on, where we are really concerned of improving health care, but we have to start somewhere. So we are improving medical care at the hospital, because unfortunately, if we put all our resources in hospitals, we may not have enough of the resources to put it where it should be going in. We should not be investing in something that can be prevented. Doesn't that make sense? Good. So this pandemic has taught us something. It is spreading, and it is affecting the world, all over the world. And everybody is at risk, at real risk of becoming infected. in medicine or in science, we have learned a few things about the things in the environment that can attack us, the parasites. Then we have the bacteria. Now we have the viruses, and we do not know very much about them. They're not like the bacteria. Perhaps the first virus we had was the smallpox. It killed a lot of people. And we, by chance, learned how to get rid of it by using a similar virus, I'll call it attenuated virus, to prevent it. When we noticed that the cowpox, the milkmaids were not getting it because they were being attacked, they were in contact. There's a lot we have to learn. But what we really should learn from this pandemic, we are all the same. We are all exposed. And if we don't work together, we are going to fail. We are going to fail if we don't work together. We have to support each other. I put on a mask, not to protect myself, it's to protect the person. That's what it is, really. They wouldn't tell you that, but I'll tell you that. And the people who have this protect me by using the necessary hygiene of respiratory hygiene. It is both of us involved. We are both involved in this thing. We can't be separated. And I think we are, having seen this pandemic, we are going to recognize the socio-economic implication, the cultural implication, the social implication of that. We are at risk if we allow people at a certain level to get sick and have them around us. It shows that we are our, the neighbor's keepers. We must help one another. This, I think, is what's going to happen out of this pandemic. We have to be serious about it and work together. The elderly have contributed quite a lot to the nation. In various ways, there's no doubt about it. They have taken care of the family. Cannot the family members in some way arrange to take care of them? Could they not be maintained in a family environment? If that is impossible, well, we have other areas where we can support them and make sure that this is done. But essentially, I think that we should look at after the elderly within the family circuit. So when I hear things like a program of caregivers around in the community, what do they call them? People working in the community and going to the elderly, caregivers, supporters by the community. When I speak of community, I'm talking about the community, the population, the government, and all these things. They have contributed. And we must arrange that. We must all arrange to make sure that we prepare for our future through either an insurance, a social security, whatever it is, These things are really important. Everybody must know that as we age, we will need support, we'll need help. And be prepared to take care of it while we are active, to contribute to savings or whatever it is. We cannot be dependent. There's a cost to health care, and we must all contribute to it in one way or the other. We must all contribute, and we must contribute by even protecting our neighbors. We can't go around without mask. When we know that the disease is spreading around the place, we must follow the advised conditions, and then we can overcome this thing. It will protect others, and in so doing, we protect ourselves. So that the moment in Dominica, we are fortunate. I won't tell you totally why I think we're fortunate, but in one way, you mentioned it, we have to maintain our level of immunity. We have to. And do you know how we can do this? Last time I was here, we were discussing that. You are what you eat. There's no doubt about it. If you eat the right food, you'll get what is required to boost your immunity. This is one thing. And these older people, weren't they eating the right foods? Weren't they exercising, whether it's going up to the hills or whatever it is? They did all that really is necessary to boost their strength and their immune systems. And this is really what I like to think about this pandemic. We will probably get a vaccine because everybody believes that this is the way that we can deal with it. But until we do, we have to protect ourselves. We have to ensure that anybody I think the ministry, they know they're doing a good job in the sense that they're following what the World Health and everybody is saying. Identify the case, do contact tracing, find out what's happening, and do it. Don't mess around and not do it. So when you can isolate the case in one way or the other, and the person prepared to do the quarantine, to do whatever is necessary, so that they become non-infectious, we hope, then we can reduce it. So every one of us, we all are concerned. We have to get a communal approach. We have got to take care of each other and recognize that what has to be done should be done. I think I will just stop just at this point because I may have a tendency of reporting replay. But this is what we're looking forward to within the next few months, because it is not the only epidemic we are going to see. It is not going to be the end thing. This virus is a smart virus. It may become just like a flu virus. Oh, we've had that for years. But fortunately, we try to make a different vaccine every year, preparing to deal with it. We also take care of ourselves, and it's not as severe. So we keep hoping that if we do the right thing, follow the public health hygienic principles, we will be able to, survive the epidemic. But what I'm more interested in is how are we going to take care of ourselves and the elderly. 20 years ago, I was at a meeting and brought out that we now have on this earth of ours 5 generations. That's a lot of people who can take 5 generations. Well, most of us here have 4 generations, but yesterday I heard somebody, a centenarian, who I think it was probably an older person, died, and the number of generations he had showed you that he lived a healthy, a good life, and hopefully he did not have any of the complications, because the complications will set in when we do not promote and practice good health principles. How we take care of ourselves. This morning, I took my pressure just to make sure everything is fine. I try to keep my weight down. We all need to do that, because these are things that contribute to lower immune systems, complications. No. We should talk about this thing. We should know it and deal with it. That's where she comes in. Thank you very much.
Well, thank you very much, Dr. Shillingford. And this brings us to the end of the formal presentations of this activity. Not that they were formal, I mean formal in the sense of an official thing, but the presentations were very down to earth from both Mrs. Toussaint, LeBlanc Toussaint, and Dr. Shillingford. And what we're hoping can bring it even further down to earth, closer to the ground, is if those of you here can participate and ask questions that may have popped up in your mind while you were listening to the presentations, or even questions that you came to this activity with, having known what the topic was going to be before. So we would like to see some involvement by you. It's unfortunate that we don't have a mechanism in place here to involve the people who are watching and listening outside via the internet. We were told, as Ophelia mentioned earlier on, that YouTube is ablaze and so is Facebook, right? Yes. So we know lots of people are listening out, and they probably have questions, and comments, but they're not able to do that. There's no mechanism in place. So we're hoping that those of you who are here can ask a few questions, make a contribution. Hey, the elderly can never be too old to contribute, right? And most of us are elderly, so step forward and make your contribution. Ask your question, make your comment, contribute to the discussion, comment on anything that you want to, in keeping with the topic, in keeping with the whole idea of the month of the elderly and the fact that we are celebrating our elderly this month. So anybody who wishes to do that can come up. I will bring the microphone to you. The reason we're asking that you come a little forward is that so that the camera can pick you up. So anybody would like to bowl the first ball? Okay.
Thank you, Tim. I think that Ophelia is probably much younger than I am, but I think from what Miss Toussaint, Adora, can I call you that, was saying, there is a negative perception in our society about the elderly. And I think it's getting worse. Worse, why? A few years ago, 10, 15, 20 years ago, you would find yourself at gatherings, family gatherings, or just other friends, social gatherings, and there would be a mix of ages. You would have very young children, babies running, their mothers, their fathers, the aunt, the grandmother. But I find increasingly that's not happening anymore in the society as much as before. So young people go, activities are really only for the very young or others, and people kind of look askance at the elderly. I mean, I get it myself. And I try to understand why we have that thinking about the elderly here in Dominica, because the very Dominicans who live here in the U.S. see the elderly as seen in a completely different light. Look at the age of the candidates running for presidency of the United States. They're not in their 30s or 40s or 50s, but there may be some comments about them, but they're still seen as contributing. I mean, There are persons in the US, they celebrate that at 95, they go to their office every day. They show this doctor in Manhattan who goes twice a week to see her patients. Yes, sometimes your mental ability may decline with age, and some people earlier than others. But what is wrong with persons still contributing? I have got the comments like, aren't you retired? Why are you still involved in anything? Why not? Because I can still make a contribution. Because you have years of knowledge and experience of what has been tried and failed, and that is that institutional and long memory that you have, that persons may come up with an idea and think, oh, but let's try that. And you may want to say, well, look at how it has worked before and, learn from the experience. So I don't know how we can correct this, but I certainly see it within the society, this whole negative perception of persons as they age, and not only as they age. If you dare to say to somebody, I'm retired, what you do is still working. And work for them means something else. I mean, the time I contribute sometimes in a week is 4, 6, 8 hours. I go home, I read. But actually, it helps me much more than what I'm given. Because what I get back is when I go out there, because I have to bathe and dress and go out there. I meet people, I meet young people, I meet old people, I see people I haven't seen for a while, I engage in conversation. And I think that it's important. I don't know what the answer is. For me, in Dominica during the pandemic, I don't see that elderly people would have been affected negatively. Why? Because they're mostly at home. Your places like Finland and so are now putting preschools close to homes for the elderly. So within that same compound, your preschools are there and your elderly are there, and they're seeing the difference in the interaction. And what's happening is our children are growing up and getting used to seeing older people and getting used to interacting with them. But certainly this is something we need to begin to look at. So you're at facts, but you're isolated. I know that sometimes preschools may have gone there, but how do we get that negative view of the elderly out of the minds of the young people in Dominica is something I guess we have to focus on.
Do we have anybody else wanting to? Oh, all right, Nigel.
Thank you. Let me compliment the presenters for doing a good job so far, and to Dr. Astafans for a thought-provoking statement. But I would like to have a simple question, and I would like to target it at the senior man in the audience. And that is simply, in his opinion, has Dominica gotten older? I am saying this with your experience. People who grew before, 40 years ago, 50 years ago, when you were growing up, did you see that there are more older persons actively involved in society as opposed to the years of the past? So I'm asking that just to ask, has Dominica grown older? Thank you.
Yes, I think we have grown older as a group. For one reason is that for a group, the younger children, we reduced the birth rate. It used to be a very high birth rate, so now it's much less. And therefore the percentage of elderly people has happened. But also the fact that, I think that some of the other problems that would affect people, like typhoid fever and other infections and pneumonia, we have been able to deal with these so that people have things. Our problem now is that we see that it's not going to continue that way. In America, even not, that the age expectancy is going to go down a bit because our lifestyle has changed. As someone told me today, people don't even bother to cook food at their homes now. They just go and they buy anything that comes on the open market, you know. And the healthy lifestyle that we had before is not good, so we are facing obesity. Now that is a serious thing. I won't go into that because I have some people I know who, they can't help it. People don't understand that. People are obese because they ate too much, but also they cannot stop eating. And we didn't really fully understand that. But now we're finding solutions for that, you know, how to be able to help people to stop this eager desire to always eat, okay?
Thank you, Dr. Schillingford. Yeah, sure.
Thank you so much. Mr. Lawrence, I'm going to follow you. With regard to what Mr. Lawrence said about the question of aging, in fact, more Dr. Astafan, she's telling me no. It is true that people say things to persons that they call older persons or elderly. Somebody was giving me a story about a bus driver who was quarreling with his mother because the mother wanted to go to town to pay her light bill, to take some money from the bank and to come back home. And he is quarreling. He has the bus to take her down. She is ready, waiting with other passengers to go and do her business. What is wrong in her going to do her business if she can? You know, so there was that. This morning we had a radio interview. I will not say on which radio, although maybe people were listening. And our PRO, who is also our second vice president, Mr. Irish, went with a young lady who was representing younger persons. And the host was flabbergasted that this young person was coming to discuss old people's business. But he got a good sense of where his mind should be, because the lady told him, but the seniors do not live in a vacuum. We are there, we can communicate with them, they have ideas, and our hands and feet can move faster to make those ideas come through. I am paraphrasing, but that's what she said. And then he asked, so what are you going to do during the month of the elderly? And she said, well, I'm starting now. I'm on the program. I'm sharing my views. I want to encourage young people to come out and meet older persons and do things with and for them. And it's obvious she had her words ready. She had her ideas ready. And Mr. Irish is not afraid to talk either. So two of them, I think, gave lessons to the people who paid attention to that program. So I'm really very happy that, Jennifer, you saying that, because I don't think I get much of it, except that I get, oh, you can do it still, man, meaning I can still dance, I can still sing. This still makes me laugh. But I tell them, well, only when the Creator says I'm going to stop, I'm going to stop. So give me room, you know, like they say, Banule. So it's, you know, that really made me think, and that is something we have to look at, I think, at the Council on Aging level, and with all our partners like DNO and so on. We will ask Tim maybe to run maybe an essay competition so that people can come and talk about it. That brings me, I just want to take this a little bit to say that some things we are doing with younger persons also within our month of the elderly include a photographic competition. And many of the young people are already excited about it. What they are supposed to do is take photographs of seniors on the move, let's say. Seniors walking in their yard, maybe taking flowers or fruits from the trees and the plants inside, outside to be able to take them inside. Some of them hold little children and help them. You know, our seniors are at home, but they are not just sitting waiting for life to pass them by. Like Dr. Astafan said, they are taking care of the little ones. They are alert. And remember, all those little ones were home for how many months? And the people looking after them, if their mommy is there, if their daddy is there, whether mommy or daddy is there, would be the seniors. They alert. They hear, Tanza, and they call you, check this. So, you know, we mustn't think, and I think Mrs. Toussaint also gave reference to people who are 60 and over, but they are contributing to what is happening to Dominica. They have things to say. They have things to ask for. We don't have to tell them to stay at home in a corner. They can come in the yard sometimes. They can go to church with their masks. And they can pray. I have seen them sing on Sunday. I sang, you know, and I'm a senior, 60-something, you know, so, you know, we cannot, you know, just put people like me aside and tell me, don't go out. I have to go out with my mask, but I have to go out. One final thing I wanted to say, and I think Paul will take it, you know, that happens to seniors. We sometimes forget, but because I'm president, I know I can ask to speak again. So thank you, Tim.
Thank you, Ophelia. Anybody else? Yes, Nigel, sure, by all means. As many times as you would like to.
Thank you. I mean, when you're in the company of people who can say things and tell you things, you have to profit. I would like to send this one out to persons in the administrative sector or the policy shaping sector of government or the country. And that is, statistics has it globally that there are about almost 800 million seniors in the world. And that by the year 2030, that number would have gotten to anywhere about 1.4 billion. And very, very candidly, I would like to state that in Dominica, we don't have the same statistics, but we have indication that this is also happening in here in proportionately. I am saying this to ask the policy shapers there, how you think small states like ours, and let me precede this by saying, it is said that most of the population explosion will take place in small developing countries like ours. So I want to ask, what advice or what you think we can do as a nation to try to prepare for this explosion in older persons, to the extent that by 2030, there would have been more older persons than living in the whole world than persons less than 10 years. Thank you.
Who wants to go first on this? Dr. Shillingford? You? Huh? Oh, Jennifer?
Well, the first thing, like Dr. Shillingford said, is what you eat, what your lifestyle is, how physical and on the move you keep being. But sometimes the push comes, and it comes sometimes from outside, because if you notice the emphasis on wheelchair access, the mobility of seniors, You go to an airport now, well, just before, and you see a number of wheelchairs lined up. There are a number of aged people on cruises and people of age who feel that they don't want to stay home because they're old. So the trends in the world push us. But coming closer to home, in my view, and up to this morning, I have raised it in several high policy fora. What I've noticed in like Barbados, at 5:30 in the morning, there are groups of seniors. So they have groups who come back home from England, but literally every morning you go to their several beaches and you find groups. Sometimes they spend the day there. Sometimes they come for a specific time. They bring their breakfast and they share. It's an area of socialization. And I ask the question because we're an island. What are the public recreational centers that exist for seniors? We have beaches. We don't have white beaches. We have black sand. But somehow there's a level of mediocrity always in our minds, and there's a view that everything costs a lot of money. And sometimes very simple things. So for example, I've raised the question, I go to the beach at Loubier. I may not necessarily at 6 or 10 o'clock in the morning want to drive to Meru. There was a point at which Meru was really not friendly to seniors because of the dip in the sand. But our view of recreation is always a view for tourists who are coming from outside. What the pandemic has shown is now what is called the staycations or Discover Your Island. There are people now who could not go away for summer that stayed home. I witnessed on August Monday, for example, driving from Calibishi. Every single river had a group of people. The question is for seniors, during the pandemic, they would go on bus drives and go to different places. How accessible are our recreational centers for seniors who only have the island to enjoy and who can still go out? We know that the water and the sea is therapeutic. I witnessed more than once going to Loubier, the Loubier access to the sea, and a guy coming there with his elderly mother who had a stroke. We know that that is good therapy, but it was very difficult to get her down to the beach. Why? We have to think along those lines. What are the recreation centers in Dominica for seniors? Where can they go and gather? Yes, the gardens is there, so you can have a gathering. I guess now you can say People's Park has been prepared. But do you see seniors out on recreation? Do you see elderly seniors being taken to the sea? Like long ago, that's where they would bring you so that your muscles, you can regain your strength from a stroke. How therapeutic the sea is. We're on an island. Do you see the access to rivers? So to me, there are things that the pandemic has brought to light that we need to focus on, and we cannot view the enjoyment of the island in the context only of outside tourism, tourists who are coming back home. And that's all that.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jennifer. Oh, I was about to say going once, going twice, going 3 times.
But this time again is for Dr. Shillingford. His daughter lived opposite me for a while, and we used to get some opportunities to talk, Doctor. And what I know about you is that you have interesting hobbies. I don't know if you can still practice them, although I was told, Counsel, be careful, nothing on Thursday evening, because he will tell us why. Why on Thursday? And then you had a very special hobby about good food. Maybe you can tell us.
I've been very, very fortunate, and I do have a hobby. It's called playing bridge. And it is known that it helps to fight Alzheimer. You know, you exercise the brain. And if you exercise the brain, then you're unlikely to get Alzheimer or forgetfulness. So that's one. The question about food is developing really a taste for food. You know? And even today I was looking at the various sources. It's not eating a lot, but it's interesting how you can, I was asking what is shadow benny, they came round. You know, you can use it. Shadow benny. Shadow benny. Yeah, and these things, so that you have to, listen, I spent a lot of time with the French as well, you see. So I know what they just love to eat, and that's it. So you eat those foods, but you make sure that they are healthy foods as well, you know? That you do not overdo, let us say, the fat content or the carbohydrate content. You blend it and have small measures. So that's it, you see. It's what you eat. And I have a textbook which says that, you know, you don't want to die. You eat the right food. There is really no doubt about it. In the Bible, they said God made plants as food for man. What happened? Oh, we found fire. And once we found fire, as I said, when I went to school, they showed you where the people used to have pigs under the house. And pigs were used as scavengers. They ate waste. So people, like the Jews, don't eat pigs. But they had a pig, and it was a nice thing, a pet. And it got burnt because of a fire. And the boy went and touched it, the skin. And when he touched it, he put his hand. It tasted so good, so people decided from now on, we can eat the animal flesh because heating and fire made it very agreeable. Okay. Thank you.
Well, thank you very much, Dr. Shillingford, and thank you to all of you who contributed to this segment of the activity, the discussion. We have come to the point where we have to wind up. It would be good to be able to get some few more comments, but we had a time cap limit on this program. I just want to remind us before we call the person who's going to give the vote of thanks in a short while, you know, some of the things that were pointed out in the presentations today. Before I do that though, I want to say that with regard to the point, I think it was Jennifer who made it, with regard to she answered, but Nigel asked a question about the need to get ready, to be prepared for a world with more older people. And based on what Jennifer said in response, I think that there is need for us to begin, and I think the DCOA has a greater responsibility in that regard, to begin to advocate to the level that, say, the DAPD is advocating. Because the DAPD is constantly advocating for the things that they need to make life better, you know, for the members of people with disabilities. So I think the same task, you know, I think befalls the DCOA, the Dominica Council on Aging, that you need now to advocate at that same level for the things that are needed in terms of policy and in terms of mindset too. Not only what the government can do, what people in authority can do, but the general, if you will, perception and disposition of society towards elderly people and the things that are needed to help make life easier for them. So that's a task that I bestow upon you. You're knighted in that regard. Okay, well, but very quickly though, Mrs. Adora Toussaint, in her presentation, she reminded us that older people are not all the same. we have to look at people individually. And there are some people who are perhaps able to contribute in different ways. So we have to look at how each individual can contribute. She also told us that, well, as we all agree, that growing old does not prevent you or preclude you from making a contribution or continuing to make a contribution to society. We all, I think, agree with that. And something she said that really caught my attention, and that is, the older you get, the happier that you are likely to become, because you can look back at the contribution that you have made and generate a certain level of satisfaction from that. I think that's the case with me, you know. When I look at my children, for example, I said I created or helped to give birth to those children, and I feel a sense of satisfaction, you know. But there are other things, but I just use the children as an example where you can't go wrong. None of you can challenge me on that, you know. And then, well, yeah, at this stage, no, I mean, my contribution as a father, okay, I am not in any way discarding or discounting the contribution of the mother. I mean, that is absolutely, you can't touch that, you know. But Mrs. Toussaint also mentioned the disadvantages. You, especially in a situation like now, where there's a pandemic that is affecting everything in the world, including the workforce, so that if older people get displaced, it is more difficult for them to get in, because in any case, right now, if two people are applying for a job, the younger, if they're both qualified for the job, the younger person, despite the fact that they may not have the experience of an older person, may still have the better chance of getting that job. So yes, that's a real challenge. And well, older people are more likely to be pushed away. But Mrs. Adora Toussaint said something interesting. We must not allow that. We must not allow ourselves to be relegated to not being able to contribute anymore. To be relegated to the position of somebody who's supposed to basically accept that I can no longer contribute to society. And she said we must fight back. But I was hoping, Mrs. Toussaint, and I think it's not too late, you know, because we did not mention that. I want you to tell us, how do you think we can fight back, right? Please do that for us at this stage.
Okay, we can fight back, and I'll repeat, we can fight back. We can fight back in many ways. We stand for what we believe. We stand strong for what we believe. And we let them recognize that in spite of our frailty or becoming old, we still have enough to contribute to society. We have the education, we have the experience, we know how to make things turn when things look dull and dim. When the dollar seems not to be able to stretch for others, we can stretch that dollar. When we do not know what to cook, we can know how to prepare a delicious meal. And in this form, we can fight back. Even when our children are being bullied, we can stand up for them and fight back. Because when a child is being bullied, and an elderly, a senior parent stands up and say, this is my child, I will not allow you to go any further. You are standing up and you are fighting back. When policies are put in place and you can stand and you can express yourself and say, no, this policy will affect not just me, but the future generation, you are fighting back. And there are so many ways that we can fight back. Even at church, when they feel we are no longer able to give the communion, we can fight back because we can still stand, walk to the altar. There are so many things that we can fight back. Even when our children move away from the domination that we believe, the Catholic faith, and move to another denomination, and they feel to us we can no longer say the rosary, we can fight back. This is my belief. We can fight back. And there are so many ways that we can fight back, Mr. Durand. If I have to stand there, because I love the elderly, and I always look for ways to assist them in fighting back.
Thank you very much, Mrs. Toussaint. I'm glad I didn't let you get away without asking you, to elaborate on your fight back policy. And now I totally understand and agree. With Dr. Shillingford, as always, the experienced campaigner that has been, and the person who has contributed so immensely to health in this country and to the development of the country in general, made to me a very important point. It's a point that we're all familiar with. It's been said in many fora, but it does not lose any significance or importance, no matter how many times it is said. And that is, we all have to be concerned and to work together for the safety of all. You know, that is so important to all of us in fighting this COVID pandemic. And that was, to me, the key point of Dr. Shillingford, that we have to be responsible for our health on safety, as well as the health and safety of our fellow men. He also talked about being prepared. I mean, when we're younger, being mindful of the fact that at some stage we'll get to the point where we will need to be prepared for eventualities such as COVID-19 or illness, and we need to be prepared by getting the necessary insurance, ensuring that we also prepare in terms of strengthening and maintaining our immunity, eating the right foods. And I don't think anyone can go wrong in that regard. We have heard it all the time that our diet is critical to a good health. There are other factors as well, but diet has always been one of the major aspects of the battle against ill health. So, and then one other thing that, with regard to our centenarians, perhaps we need, I do not know to what extent that we have studied, you know, the lives of our centenarians. We've had features and so on them, but how have we used, you know, those lives and those experiences to enrich our own knowledge of what people did and what contributed to their longevity, you know? Right. We have about 26 centenarians right now, right? And I think this is something that perhaps DCO, if they help, you see I'm helping here tonight, right? So I'm sure that there are many other organizations that you can solicit, you know, their assistance, their cooperation, their collaboration to work on getting that information and see how we can use it, how helpful it's going to be to us to educate our populace on how people lived to ensure that they lived healthy lives. Okay, so those are some of the things that I was able to take away from the presentations. There was I did ask Ophelia, and that was this whole idea of advocating for proper policy, you know, to ensure that our elderly are given access to the amenities and the areas, recreational areas, as Jennifer said, and the things that they need to make their lives more pleasant, more fulfilling, more comfortable. And having said that, ladies and gentlemen, I think I spoke a little bit too much for just the moderator, but I thoroughly enjoyed this evening's activity, the discussion, the information that came forth, and also the fact that I was able to make a small contribution in the process to collaborate with the Dominica Council on Aging and to play the role that I did in tonight's activities. So thank you very much. I want to hand you over now to, who is going to give the vote of thanks? Nigel. Nigel Lawrence of the DCOA for the vote of thanks.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. Tonight has been a night of opinions, but I want to caution you on and throw out this statement that is not an opinion. It's indisputable. And that is, for the moment we've sat here, we have grown old. And anybody who can dispute that, I bow down to them. I would like to say that with technology and with the pandemic, man has become very creative, and so do the Council on Aging. We've been able to try to reach as many persons as possible through this medium, that is through cyberspace or through social media, whatever you call it. And I would like to say, for that, we should thank the Almighty for giving us the power and the glory to be able to be that innovative. I would like to also thank, first of all, the moderator, who has a dual role here. He's there as a moderator and one of the persons who lead the Dominica News Online network, and through him, we've been able to host this event. On behalf of the Dominica Council on Aging, I would like to thank our main presenter tonight, a man who I call a mobile library, and is a man who I think we should not let him disappear without trying to tap on and extract as much as possible from him. And I think what Dr. Astafan said tonight with regards to things we do, that is one way I would say that Dr. Dorian Shillingford, thank you very much. And let me tell you, we will not let you end up like a library that gets burnt and all the books get burnt in the process. We will try to use you as much as possible in a positive way. I would also like to thank my the lady with a passion, the lady with a long surname, Libla Toussaint. I would like to thank you very much, Mrs. Adora, for gracing us with your presence. And we know when you speak with passion, because you've been in the gutters like all of us who have that passion. Thanks a million. To Dr. Astafan, who is not at the head table, but featured just like somebody at the head table, and who brings with her not just who she is today, but a wealth of experience in the public sector, in the health sector, in the international field, and in the diplomatic sector. Doc, thank you very much. And to our audience there, in our audience, I want to tell you that we have representatives of a vibrant group, which is the vibrant citizens of Roseau. I call it of Dominica, the young, vibrant citizens of Dominica. Thank you very much for your presence. And I would also like to thank the staff of the DCOA for making today possible. And last but not least, I want to thank Multi Solutions. And let us give Multi Solutions a round of applause. And to all of you in cyberland, to all of you in social media land, before the pandemic, I knew of social media, but I was never a social media fanatic. But you all have, the pandemic has done great things. Praise the Lord. Thank you, and thanks to everybody.
Just give me the opportunity to say thank you, Nigel, for thanking all of us. And I would like to invite you, wherever you are, on Cyberland, as Nigel says, to tune in again on the 1st of October, because we are having a virtual gospel concert. And we are highlighting none other than Jerry Lloyd. Plan to be there in cyberspace. We have a few people we can accept in the audience on account of the COVID situation. And we will be observing the mask and the distancing protocols and everything that we can. Secondly, I'd like to ask you please to say a prayer for the Dominica Council on Aging. And when you're doing that, remember to say thank you to the Lord for all of the persons who supported us here and who will continue to support the Council on Aging after today. To Dr. Shillingford, I personally want to add my thanks again. At first he told us, well, we're not organizing anything, you know, but if you organize, I will come. And he is here. I'm asking you to close this with a big round of applause for Dr. Shillingford. Thank you.